What's up, y'all? Welcome to my channel, Unstoppable Armor. For those who do not know me, my name is Nisha Mays, and I'm just a messenger bringing forth the word. I'm just a messenger bringing forth the word, and I'm doing the Power of God Checkmate series. And this just basically that I'm just sharing insights and revelation on what God give me through my study time to encourage you along the way. But anywho, today's topic is the enemy cannot stop God's plan. The enemy cannot stop God plan. And what they mean is, if you got a purpose, or God got basically, like, if God got a purpose for your life or a plan for your life, no matter how much the enemy try to come against you, he cannot stop God plan. He's not that powerful. And me going through this message or whatever and giving it to y'all, you're gonna show you that it didn't matter how much the enemy came against this person, they could not stop God plan, because God plan still stands. It don't matter what you go through, what it look like, your situation, no matter what. I mean, it can look horrible, but when God have a purpose and a plan over your life, it's gonna take place. They just see God's word stand. And we need it. Just because we feel like we are powerless sometimes in certain areas, doesn't mean that God is not powerful. So just because sometimes we go through situations, we go through life, and you don't feel as, that you're powerful enough to do certain things, or powerful enough to complete certain things, or whatever like that, just because you feel like you're powerless in certain areas, doesn't mean that God is not powerful in all areas, okay? So let me go ahead and jump into this. And let me also say that if you need to watch the full link. If the video is not long enough to be on Instagram, just hit the link in my bio on Instagram, and it'll connect you to my YouTube page, okay? Unstoppable Armor. But anyhow, I'm taking this message out of the book of Esther. And before I get into the book of Esther, when I would think about it, when I was reading it, you know what I'm saying, I told God to give me something else about the book of Esther, because a lot of time when we think about Esther, we only think about just the queen, or we think about when I say about that, we think about the queen getting her royal position, right? And we don't look at anything else. And see, God wants you to look at a lot of stuff in the whole story, not just one particular thing, you know what I'm saying? And so I asked God, give me something else, just besides just that, because I know about that story right there. So if you haven't read the book of Esther, then I advise you to read it, because you're not going to really kind of understand this message, okay? You might understand certain things, but that's why it's good to read the Bible, so you can understand when God sends certain people out to spread the word or spread the message. You'll be able to understand and be able to see God in it at the same time. So I'm taking this message out of Esther, the book of Esther, right? And so in the book of Esther, it had a man named Haman. And Haman, I want y'all to keep in mind, but Haman was an enemy of Mordecai and the Jews, okay? So in the book of Esther, they had a man named Haman. And I want you to keep in mind, for those especially that haven't, read the book of Esther, that Haman was an enemy, of the Jews, and this man named Mordecai. Mordecai was a man of God, okay? And even in the book of Esther, you didn't see God mentioned in the book of Esther, but you can see God power in the book of Esther. You see what I'm saying? That's how powerful God is. Like, my name ain't gotta be mentioned, but you'll see my power through it. You see what I'm saying? But anywho, let me not drift off to that, okay? So anywho, Mordecai, he was a man of God. And Mordecai had taken Esther when she was younger as his own daughter, because her mother and father had passed away. So Mordecai acted as a guardianship over Esther, and Esther was like his cousin. So keep that in mind, all right? So by Mordecai doing that, it showed that he had good gestures in his heart, you know what I mean? Okay, and Esther was considered an orphan around this time. And during this time, there was a king who got rid of his wife in the palace, Vashti, and was suggested to invite other women in his palace to find another wife. So word got back to Mordecai and Esther, right? Now Mordecai is the man of God who got guardianship over Esther, his cousin. So word got back to them about the king getting rid of his wife. And when he got rid of his wife, some of his colleagues, suggested, look, just have a little, ceremony, a little banquet or whatever like that, and find you another wife, you know what I'm saying? Well, and the king decided that was a good idea, so that's what he did. So when the word got back, Mordecai was like, you know what, Esther, you can go to the palace, you know what I'm saying? I can go and I can work there too, or whatever. You never know, you know what I'm saying? You might become the next wife or whatever the case may be, right? So anywho, Mordecai and Esther, they had joined the retreat of the king palace to consider Esther being, you know, chosen wife at that time. Mordecai was a servant, y'all, and he worked at the king's palace at the king's gate, and he was considered a man of God, man of integrity, and he wasn't gonna bow down for anybody. But one day, the man named Haman, the enemy, keep in mind we're gonna call him the enemy. That man named Haman was promoted by the king. Gotta think about this. So the man named Haman was promoted by the king to be governed over all the servants and all the people in the kingdom. So, you know, that to me, when I read about it, it made me think about Haman being like a right-hand man to the king. You know what I'm saying? So that means anything that goes or whatever like that, they have to bring it to Haman, and Haman take it to the king. You know what I'm saying? So the king promoted Haman, the enemy, over all the other servants, including Mordecai. So keep that in mind. So anywho, in Esther 2 it reads, and all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed down and did reverence to Haman. So when Haman was promoted by the king, the people, all the other people were bowing down and respecting Haman. But Mordecai was like, I'm not going to be bowing down to him. And I'm paraphrasing this, all right? I'm not going to be bowing down to him. I'm a man of God. I'm a man of integrity. The only person that I'm going to be bowing down to is God. So anyway, the word got back to Haman, the enemy, that Mordecai was not bowing down or respecting him. And what did they do to the enemy? Like it do today. If we don't bow down to the enemy or respect him or do what he want us to do, he get mad. And that's exactly what Haman did. He got mad and got angry about it. And he wanted to do something about it. Okay? He wanted to do something about it. But anywho, Mordecai would like basically like, I ain't with that. I ain't with that bowing down to no darn Haman. So anyway, so after the king promoted Haman, it was commanded that all the servants in the king palace supposed to bow down and respect him. But like I said, Haman was like, I'm not with that. I'm not going to be bowing down to no damn man, okay? So one day while Mordecai was working in the king palace, he was outside like the gate, the king gate, right? He was working there, even though Esther was there as well, but she was in another, you know, position in the kingdom, in the palace, I mean. And so anyway, Mordecai was working at the king gate, and he overheard two commanders talking about they wanted to assassinate the king. And so, you know, he was eavesdropping a little bit, and he ended up hearing it. And when he heard it, he sent that word back to Esther, his cousin, who was trying to was in a position to be chosen to be the king's next wife. He sent that word back to her, and she sent the word to the king. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, about that same time when all that was going on, when Mordecai heard about the plot against the king, Haman, his enemy, the one that he would not bow down to, the one he wouldn't respect, was plotting against the Jews and Mordecai at the same time. So all that was taking place at the same time. That's why it's good to read the book of Esther, so you can be able to understand, because you're not going to really understand where I'm coming from before I really get deep into the word. So anyway, all this going around at the same time. Mordecai working, Esther in another position. She getting preparation to be presented to the king to be chosen as another wife, because they had other women out there, and so they want to let the king pick another wife to replace his current wife, right? And so at the same time, Mordecai is working by the king gate, and he ended up hearing two of the king's commanders talking about they want to assassinate the king. And at the same time, Haman, the enemy of Mordecai and the Jews, is mad and angry and want to kill the Jews and Mordecai, because Mordecai would not bow down and basically like worship him and respect him. Okay, so y'all got that? Okay, so anywho, so one day Haman went home and he complained to his wife and his advisor about Mordecai, because Mordecai didn't want to bow down to Haman or reverence him. And they told Haman in Esther chapter 6 verse 13 that since Mordecai, this man who has humiliated you, is of Jews. In Esther chapter 6 verse 13, let me read it again, y'all. Since Mordecai, this man who has humiliated you, is of the Jewish birth, you will never succeed in your plans against him. it would be fealty to you if you continue to oppose him. Now let me stop right there for a minute. That is exactly how the enemy is in our life. When you are a child of God or whatever, you trying to walk in a close relationship with God, the enemy gonna come against you, opposing you, continue to oppose you, continue to try to get you off the, off this journey or whatever he try to bring against you. You know what I'm saying? Or he try to come against you like a flood. It don't matter how much he come against you. If God have a plan and God have a purpose for you, for your life, the enemy cannot stop God plan. The enemy can't stop God plan, and that's exactly what Haman was trying to do with Mordecai and the Jews. But when you're covered by God grace and you covered by God mercy, the enemy can't stop God plan. It don't matter what he tried to do. And so that's what Haman was trying to do to Mordecai and the Jews. You know what I'm saying? Because I guess he was so upset and so angry and so mad because Mordecai would not bow down to him and worship him. Mordecai wouldn't give him that respect that he felt like he needed just because he was over all the servants. Okay? And that's how the enemy is. Like, the enemy got enough of power, right? He got enough of power to try to tempt you to do what he wants you to do, and then when you don't do it, he get mad, he get upset, and then he start coming against you in all kind of ways. Whether it just through family, whether it do financial, whether it do just your relationship with God. It doesn't matter. So anywho, let me get back into it. So after his wife and his advisor told him that it don't matter how bad that you keep coming against it, man, your plan will never succeed. You see what I'm saying? And so anyway, it's still, so Haman, oh my God, okay, I'm tripping. So Haman, he was trying to figure out another plan to get rid of Mordecai. And so what he did, he made a gallows for Mordecai. He wanted to hang Mordecai. But anywho, when he made it or whatever the case may be, he was making it to, that was his own plan. That was the end of the plan. Like, okay, since he don't want to bow down to me, since he don't want to worship me, since he don't want to respect me, then I'm going to make something and I'm going to kill him. And I'm going to figure out a way and a plan to do it. And that's how the enemy is. You know what I'm saying? And this is exactly how the enemy will do everything in his little power to try to stop God's plan for your life. But if you continue to press and push through in what God tells you and instruct you to do, the enemy will not succeed. He will not succeed. Anyway, during this same time, y'all, a banquet was taking place and represented in the king's palace. And Esther had favor in the king's eyes. Mordecai sent word to Esther to go speak to the king, because get what, Esther, I just heard two commanders of the king plotting to assassinate him. So I need you to go speak to the king about this. And so at the same time, Esther was hesitant of going to go speak to the king about this situation, because back then in those days you couldn't just approach the king on your own. And when you think about it now, Jesus is Lord, Jesus is King, and Jesus is King. And so it like with God, you got to go through Jesus in order to approach God. You can't approach God on your own. You see what I'm saying? You got to repent. You know what I'm saying? You got to believe that Jesus died. You see what I'm saying? Like, God is so prestigious in what he do. He never changes. You feel what I'm saying? But anywho, so basically, like, Mordecai like heard about it, and so he sent word to Esther, like, look, I overheard two commanders wanted to assassinate the king, and so you need to go speak to a king about it. And Esther sent word to the king about this matter, right? But at the same time, Mordecai don't know that Haman, his enemy, is plotting to kill him and the Jews. So remember when I said at the beginning that Mordecai had good gestures in his heart, because he took Esther when she was younger, when her mom and father passed. He took her as to be guardian over her life. You see what I'm saying? So now she in the king palace. Now she's trying to see if the king would choose her to become queen. But at the same time, all this chaos is going on around them. So anywho, let me get back to it. The only time you could really approach the king back then if you had permission. And if you approach the king, he'll pull out his scepter, like, okay, it's okay for you to come on into the intercourse to speak to him on whatever you want to speak to him about. But if the king didn't give you permission and he didn't pull out his scepter, it's a chance that you can die. You see what I'm saying? So Esther was hesitant of going to the king because she knew the policy of it, right? But then Mordecai had sent word to Esther, because Esther had sent word back to Mordecai that, like, you know where I'm at. You know I cannot approach the king. And I'm paraphrasing. You know I can't approach the king just on my own like that. I understand that you gonna overheard, that somebody trying to plot against the king, they trying to kill him, but I can't approach the king because I can be put to death. And Mordecai was basically like, if you don't do it anyway, we probably all gonna be put to death, or whatever the case may be. So this might be your appointed time, okay? But anywho, let me read this. Esther chapter 4, verse 14, it reads, if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. So he sent word back to Esther. Esther was like, I ain't gonna be able to approach the king, because I'm probably gonna end up dying, because you already know you cannot approach the king unless you summon for it. And I haven't been summoned for all these months, and now you telling me you overheard that somebody want to assassinate the king, and now you want me to get out of my position, and knowing that the king have not summoned me to come to him and go into his inner court and tell him what's going on. Nah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do that. And Mordecai, like, this might be your appointed time. You're gonna have to do you're gonna have to do what you gotta do. Okay, that was basically what Mordecai was saying. So anywho, now I want y'all to think about this now. Haman was like a right hand man to the king during this time. And Mordecai and Esther, they were Jews, okay? And one day the king heard of the good gesture that Mordecai did when Mordecai overheard the two of the king's commanders plotting to assassinate him. So this when the king called in Haman, Mordecai's enemy, because he was the one that was over all of the servants in the palace at that time, right? The same one that wanted Mordecai dead, the same one that wanted the Jews to die, the same one that made the gallows for Mordecai. The king has called Haman in because the king wanted to reward whoever it was that overheard the two people plotting to assassinate the king. So keep that in mind. So anywho, he wanted to reward Mordecai for it, because once he got back to the king, I guess the word got back from Esther to the king, right? That two people trying to plot to assassinate with you, and he found out like who was the one that heard this, and then they were like Mordecai. So back then they had the book that they kept certain stuff for certain people that did certain things, like a record, or if you did good, or you did something wrong or whatever like that. They kept a book back then. And so he wanted to reward Mordecai for what he did, the good gesture for what he did. All right. So anywho, the king called in Haman, his right hand man, and he was telling Haman, he want to reward Mordecai. Not Mordecai, he didn't tell him the name. He said it was a man that basically like overheard about the two people that want to assassinate me, and I want to reward them for them coming forth through it by Esther. You see what I'm saying? And so he was asking his right hand man, the enemy of Mordecai, Haman, what should I do? What should I give this person that did this? You know what I'm saying? I want to reward them or whatever not. And so Haman, let's get there. Haman thinking in his mind, who would the king want to reward more than me? I'm paraphrasing. I became the servant of all the people around him. Who would the king want to reward more than me? I'm his right hand man. The orders come down from the king and be passed to me, and I make it happen. Basically, that's what I'm saying. So, anywho, that's what Mordecai probably would think. I'm not Mordecai, but Haman was thinking in his mind. So, what he did and what he said in Esther chapter 6, verse 6 through 11, he said, what should be done for the man whom the king wishes to reward? Haman thought to himself, whom would the king wants to honor more than me? Like I said. So he replied to the king, for the man whom the king wishes to honor, there shall be brought the royal robe the king wore, and the horse that the king rode, with the royal crestplate on his head. The robe and the horse should be given to the noblest of the king's officials, who must clothe the man the king wishes to reward. Have him ride on the horse in the public square of the city and cry out before him. This is what to be done for the man who the king wishes to honor. And you know what the king said? That's a good idea, Haman. The king said, hurry, take the robe and the horse as you have proposed. Listen to this. Take the robe and the horse as you propose. Because this is what Haman told the king. And do this for the Jew named Mordecai. And have him to ride in the public of the square of the city and cry out before him. This is what to be done for the man whom the king wishes to honor. Imagine how Haman felt when he heard Mordecai's name. You want me to do all this for Mordecai? So you see how God plan is? It's like the enemy cannot override God's plan for your life. So just imagine how Haman felt when he heard the word Mordecai, heard the name Mordecai, and the Jews, you know what I'm saying? But anywho, the Jewish people or whatever, you had to think about that. Haman had been plotting. He had been plotting against the Jews and Mordecai, and now that the king wanted to reward a man of the good gesture that he did by hearing the two commanders in the king palace that overheard them talking about assassinating the king, and he done wrote this down, and now he wanted reward, so he went to his right hand man Haman to ask him for his advice, like, what you think I should do? And then Haman, like, in his mind thinking like, oh, okay, the king told me what he should do. I'm the right hand man, you know what I'm saying? You can do this, you can do this, have a robe, a horse, and this and that and the third. And the king like, okay, that's a good idea. Hurry and go do all of that to the man named Mordecai. So in Haman mind, like, this my enemy, this the person that I want to kill. You feel me? But anywho, it's so crazy that Haman is supposed to be the right hand man, but he was so focused on wanting to kill Mordecai, wanting to kill the Jews, that he didn't even know about Mordecai being the person, or didn't even dig into the point of Mordecai being the person that the king, that the word got back to the king about, meaning that Mordecai was the one that heard the two commanders wanted to assassinate the king. So he didn't even know none of that. So you wasn't the right hand man as you thought you was. You see what I'm saying? So that's how I was reading, like, he was doing all this and try to plot on all kind of stuff to kill Mordecai and to kill the Jew. But you know, he was so focused on Mordecai to the point of he wanted Mordecai to bow down to him that he couldn't even never realize that the same person he wanted dead was the same person that saved the king's life. It's so crazy. Haman tried everything to stop Mordecai and the Jews, but he couldn't, because God had a plan. When you're in God's plan, the enemy is going to come against you, but he cannot stop God's plan for your life. Everything and everyone can come against you, but if God got a plan, the enemy won't stand. Here it is. If God got a plan, the enemy won't stand. And it's not because of you, but it's because of God's plans for your life. It's because of God's plan for your life. So just keep this, you know, I hope I went all over the place with this. I was trying to give it to you the best that I can, but I have been having some issues. As usual with my phone, I gotta get me a camera. I just gotta go ahead and go buy me a camera. This up next. But anywho, to keep that in mind, that no matter how much that the enemy try to come against you, no matter how much things come against you, you got to know that God has a plan for your life, and the enemy can't stop God's plan. God is too powerful. He is too powerful. It don't matter what the enemy try to bring up against you. If you trust and believe in God and you walk in close relationship with God, the enemy can't stop God's plan. He might, you know, stagger and try to stop you from certain stuff, but he still can't stop God's plan. God's plan still will be fulfilled. Can't no man, can't no enemy, can't nobody stop God's plan. And we have to leave, you know, not leave, but we have to live this journey knowing that God is so powerful that the enemy cannot stop his plan. Not even you. Not even you. You can't even stop God's plan for your life. I'm sorry, y'all. That just made me so excited. You can't even stop God's plan for your life. Think about the enemy. The enemy can't even stop God playing for your life. So what make you think you can stop God playing for your life? You can't. He's in that power. But anywho, that's the word, y'all. That is the word. And I'll be back with another word whenever I can. I hope I don't have no issue with releasing some word, because me trying to record this video, yeah, I still had more issue, and I'm trying to come on and do some visual and some audio or whatever the case may be. But I gotta buy me a camera, y'all, ASAP, for real. I ain't with this erasing it and erasing stuff in my storage and trying to figure out. I'm not with that. You know what I mean? But anywho, I hope y'all enjoyed the word. Tune in for the next word whenever I drop the word. I don't have a specific day. I don't have a specific time. It's just I'm going with the flow. I'm just going with the flow. As God gave me the word, I'm going with the flow. Okay? So anyway, take care. Tune in on the next video. Bye.